The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery all those years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration in the paper were based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back on it now, I realize I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. It is all because of that newspaper article. Huh? Oh my god. But it was printed by Osmond! He's a grave robber! God, he admitted it! Haunted by ghosts? You were grave robbing inmates? Selling corpses? Resurrectionists? Repurposers? The illustration. The reporter. Don't tell me you don't know who the reporter is. Well, if what you're saying is true, we've got our reason why you'd want him dead. He ruined your reputation. There's our motive. Alright, we need more information out of you before we do anything important. If that's the police. Tuss Bells is gonna react or something. Somebody's gonna react and we're gonna have to excuse him. Pursue. The gutter press. Spread like the plague. Ghost stories. Hasman.
Hold it!
Yeah, ghosts, okay. Your mind's eye. All we had is photographic print. Wait, does the camera actually? Hold on. If this is his camera, then there should be a print, right? There's no reason there'd be blood on it otherwise. Alright, we're gonna present the camera.
Objection!
Nope. What else could we... I don't think there's anything else we can really do here.
Hold it!
The trophy, maybe. I think I'd like to press the statement first. 5 pounds? You purchased the camera! Ah, now we can present the camera. Well, well, well.
Objection!
No? It's still not the camera? I've lost 2 points to this camera.
Hold it!
Yeah, it might be a different statement then. The Daily Circus. Hardly a model student. Expelled. Okay, he's denying it all. Side. So they're working together now. If Trevor were to betray her, there'd be no reason for her to continue to cooperate.
Hold it!
Press statement number 1 for safety. And read the paper. How do we prove that he did see the thing? We have to open the head, maybe? We can't do that right now. So he still wants to be a scientist. We know that much. He hasn't completely given up on the profession. I can't. Something's involving the camera somewhere. It has to be important. There's nothing else of relevance in this picture at all. It's just showing that it's him. It's like how we don't have his business card anymore. The contract's going to be important for proving that Osmond's the one who drew the picture. A hospital? Young research students. Try the trophy, but I don't know if that's important. I don't know if what changes if we prove he didn't give up on science? What further facts could he tell us? As I don't really have much to lose since I don't have a definitive answer, but
Objection!
no, of course not. Try the camera here.
Objection!
Yeah, I'm kind of stumped at this part. We don't have a lot of evidence to work with. Look, he's got his camera out, he's got his light, he's got it's either the newspaper, the autopsy report, the waxwork head, which I don't think it is, or the camera. Those are the only 4 pieces of evidence, but I can't pin which. is not good to be stumped by something this early. It's like when I got stumped by Nash and Ringo at the start of, or the early bits of Case 5 in the last one. Yeah, I figured it would be the information about the camera now that it's been updated. But we need to, first we need to determine how the blood got on there. So I guess it's potentially the article on one of these statements.
Objection!
Yeah. But why is it the article? Is it because there's a drawing or a sketch? Yeah, you drew an illustration. Look, you got your spade, you got your light. Wearing an iron mask. Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago. It was decided in the closed courts ruling the man would wear a mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed even during his execution and subsequent burial. Not even prison wardens were to see the man's face. Obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge. So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard, a lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask, as you'd actually seen the professor that night. It's inconceivable the artist would have included a mask in the illustration. We got him! Now we're gonna have to use the camera on something. Order, order! Well, Mr. Drebber? It's a vile scheme, isn't it? If you look closely. As I've already bent to pains out, I was utterly petrified. Is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight, but afterwards I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken. Oh my god. You're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness. Then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you. Of course, only too happy to oblige. I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point! I, in fact, witness was a fellow grave robber at work. What? Well... hold on. Before I start presenting things willy-nilly again, let's see. Because I'm a little bit up the creek without a paddle. Let's press this. There's nothing to lose. Fellow grave robber, what are you talking about? Well, I wasn't the one busy in the cemetery that night. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the holy dung, my heart very nearly stopped. That's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see. You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubris business as yourself. Many of the medical students would wear a metal mask to protect them from bacteria during these dissections. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity.
Objection!
There's more to the story, isn't there? Everyone goes on to say. Next thing, the gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. Bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest. His breath then stilled once more. Soon the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them. The gravedigger had shot someone in the cemetery. I think that might have been rather big news, my lord. Ah, yes, well. Only soon was an embellishment over on.
Strange.
Yes?
Excuse me.
Yes, Madam Tispels? Take it out on Sholmes. Ooh la la, pardon. I was lost in my thoughts. fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way? Thought it was a little strange, this all. How Monsieur Drebber would claim this now. You don't mind me saying, Madame, what are you talking about? Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you counted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, no? Including the gunshot. Stop. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
Have a care, Drebber. That's no way to speak to a lady. Please, Madame Tuspels, carry on. Of course. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him. The bullet hit the condemned man. I said nothing of the sort. No, you were very explicit about that detail. About the mask and the figure was wearing. And the blood that splattered over you when he was shot. Enough. Shut up, woman. You're making all this up. That will do. Mr. Drebber. Yes. You refute the account just given by Madame Tuspels? I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on! Do you really expect us to believe you? Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom. Right. For the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position. There have been 2 clarifying statements in this damn testimony. Come on! There was no gunshot from behind me, nor splattering of blood. You dirty punk! I tried to present this twice earlier.
Objection!
Now, suck it! Your camera's got a blood splatter. Drebber, you remember this? This was yours, huh? You sold it for cash with the blood stain still on it. We borrowed it from the House of Horrors. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery. And is that supposed to be significant? This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. Notice the lens extends forward to the end of the bellows. Like
Hold
this.
it!
What's that? There, just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. Up. That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good lord, are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a splatter of blood. Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Scythe? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough. Suppose that Madame Tuspel's testimony was correct. That on the night in question 10 years ago, you were splattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, aye. And that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. Good. Oh! Simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor
Objection!
that night. But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose then? Who could benefit? Mr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody. My goodness, he's shielding someone? What a ladies' man! Yes, my lord, and clearly. Someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed. Well, counsel, who is it then? Who is the witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw that night? Come on, Your Honor.
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. Scythe! Scythe? Whatever do you mean? Imagine the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine that was to come to light. What are you insinuating? Imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor. But That would be an unprecedented scandal!
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean the execution never actually happened. Yes, that's exactly what
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape. Not in Great Britain.
Objection!
The fact is, there is a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. If that were really true, counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up. Oh well, Scythe, looks like your boss isn't getting the Chief Justice promotion he wanted. Because of these monumental repercussions, that Dr. Scythe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret. Even if that meant being complicit in a crime, like Gregson. You mean Dr. Scythe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asmund with the waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Ah! Ooh, boot on the bench! Lord Van Zeeks! Pray forgive my freshly filled hollow chalice and a whole raft of other discourtesies now. Goodness me! Just the sort of tall-tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. Executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one more thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night, only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Well, too little information to work that out at present, I think. Yeah. The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. Ugh. Have you considered this, my learned Japanese friend? Considered what? Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman to such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary. Quite hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. To rely on some stage deception with so much as at stake would be madness. Well, I suppose. And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits too. Yes, I had no reason to kill. We can make a reason for you! Yeah, the contract's got his signature and so does the newspaper. Threats forced the head of the forensics investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Of course it wasn't. It was revenge for ruining his life. Your time is up, my learned friend. Say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? Ooh, nice dodge, Kazuma. At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright. Who exactly was Mr. Asmund to Drebber? I wouldn't be surprised if he, like, has them specifically brought in and, like, hung under his desk. Like, you take the bottom part of the chalice, you slide it into, like, a little, like, thing. Like, imagine two L's. The short parts are connected to the top, of the bench. And then in the middle, he could just slide a hollow chalice through. He pulls it out, grabs a bottle from his feet. Kazuma cuts the cork. It's the newspaper, obviously.
Take that!
It's the newspaper article. That was written 10 years ago. Every detail's been examined already. What can it possibly tell us? Drivel should never have been written. It's typical gutter press nonsense and means nothing. On its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, consider it alongside another piece of evidence. It will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asmund dead. What other evidence? Counsel, you will present your supplementary evidence without delay. Evidence, which cross-references a newspaper article, establishes a... I'm the judge.
Take that!
It's the contract, my lord! Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Asmund. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man. Oh, I'm afraid not. There's something very significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. Really? It's that common link. It shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odie Asmund. It seems the defense has uncovered something and the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these two pieces of evidence have in common. What exactly is the link between the newspaper and the contract? Right
Take
here!
that!
What these two pieces of evidence have in common is a signature. A signature? Signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? Arg. As court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right-hand corner of the drawing. And if you look on the contract, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can see Mr. Asmund's signature at the bottom. Yeah, this newspaper is bonkers. Thank you, Madam Tuspels. Can we have the key? In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of the case, Odie Asmund. Warg. Look at him slumped on the ground.
Objection!
But explain to the court why. Why would that constitute motive for the witness to murder Asmund? Well, if you think back, remember Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses in a cell is reasonably lucrative. It's quite beyond the pale. Divine retribution. I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It cost me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. It was all because of that newspaper article. Well, Drebber? Time you were a University of London student who dreamt of being a scientist. However, this single newspaper article changed your entire life. So Mr. Asmund used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord. In fact, it's widely held belief that Asmund managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. All because of that article, written by Mr. Asmund. Enough! Stop this endless dribble about my life. What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber. Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. It was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. Struggled on with their hypotheses anyway. We all did. Only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some other wretch, after all. Good gracious. Make a name for herself as a scientist in a climate like that. It was a miracle only select few geniuses could hope to achieve. Well, you don't say! What? No, you're a genius. You got a gold star and a trophy. How about the science people? I have evidence to prove it. Well, you see, I examined your room while you were trying to hide in the safe after setting up the bomb. Because you had talent.
Take that!
Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? What exactly is this trophy, Council? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. There is no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious! Prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was. When it dawned on you he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life. It's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. Scythe still hasn't given a single line of testimony for all the time she's been up here. The truth is. And now she objects. Yep. There it is. Right as he's about to do it. Fine. Clearly this has run its course now. I admit it. All of it. What? What are you doing? It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim. The condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago. No. Good lord! Huh. This isn't where I was. I thought she was going to try to deflect. Dr. Scythe, do you realize what you're saying, woman? It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. Then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Dr. Scythe, you will go along with my plan. From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago. All the instructions were on the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There's really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. Well, I guess her admitting to it is better than him admitting to it, because then on the record she can say she's the one who did it, and maybe get off a little slightly easier. Given she's probably going to get... There's no point in trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborate in a murder. The great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished. So she's gracefully admitting defeat instead of fighting to the bitter end. Then Drebber, what do you say to that? accomplice has admitted everything. Come on, blow up! Surely it goes without saying. Admit your part in it too, then? I admit nothing. At all. What? Have you forgotten? The Kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion. Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way to prove I did anything wrong. No! Come on! Order! Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. Lord Van Zieks. Yes. I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course. Heard more than enough now. Hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper forum in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. Defendant is Professor Albert Harebrain. Very true. It had slipped my mind. Isn't he one of your closest friends? And the court has heard Dr. Scythe admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt. You mean... Present time is the conclusion of this court. The defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objections? Ooh. So this is going to be a crucial moment for Van Zieks. I don't know what the play here is. I don't see what grounds he can use to continue the trial. But at the same time, I'm not sure what letting it end does. So let's see what he does. No objections. Without further ado, then, the adjudication. Does the prosecution and defense have any other matters to discuss? Eric? I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Scythe suddenly admit to it like that? Everything alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Like you said before, your trial is set to end now. The judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. Is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is